Okay, we got through three, or the entire American League. If there's one last thing I wanted to mention that we had talked about was, I think it was funny that I talked about a trash can and then we brought up the Astros. There's a couple trash cans there, but they can beat trash cans, but they beat the Phillies last year too. So I
They,
think that I think that was a question that we all had. Uh, if if the Astros have overcome that the cheating scandal with winning on what many believe to be fair terms finally this year, if they've overcome that stigma, or if that will just forever be there. So,
well, it's going to be interesting. I think the fans will always be riding them. They have, 4 or 5 guys on the team who are still part of the World Series team in 2017. Uh, and Jose Altuve in particular kind of seems to be, the lightning rod for a lot of that. But Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley, a couple others. I think there was a sort of an interesting referendum on that, and it didn't have anything to do necessarily with on the field. Um, Carlos Beltran was part of that Astros team, and this is a guy who, is a 3,000 hit player, and 3,000 hits, one of the magic numbers. You would think with 3,000 hits, he would get into the Hall of Fame. His first year of eligibility for the vote was this past year, and he did not finish. He was not elected to the Hall of Fame. He did not finish second or third, or he got about 45% of the vote, something like that. And I think in some ways that's kind of that I think that's sort of the writers maybe punishing him a little bit for being involved in the in all of that. He should get in this year, but they I think not letting him be a first ballot Hall of Famer even with 3,000 hits. There's still a little bit of a little bit of a resentment for that. I think if Altuve comes up for the Hall of Fame, it'll probably be the same thing. It may take him a couple extra, cycles through to, for his election. So, I think it's still out there. I think it's dissipating. I think a huge part of that was Dusty Baker. I think he was the guy to get them through all of that. And, I think last year, as much success as he's had as a manager, he'd never won a World Series, as a player or as a manager. And I think he's touched a lot of lives throughout baseball, and a lot of people were pulling for him last year. So I think there was some good juju, with that. And I think it's lessening. It'll still be there. There'll still be people who yell and bang things in the stands, but um, I think it's going to be fading a little bit more as we go forward now.
yeah. Any thoughts, Dustin or Cody, on
Is
AL
Houston
West?
a favorite? Is Houston a favorite to repeat ALCS or even World Series in your mind?
They will definitely be in the mix. If I had to guess right now, I would say Yankees versus Houston in the American League, which would be, that's kind of a thorn in the side of the Yankees. So for the Yankees to move on and for them to really feel like they've taken a step forward, it has to go through Houston.
That was my ALCS prediction as well, and I picked the Yankees to finally get over that hump and go to the World Series this year. So,
yeah, all things being equal, I wonder if Houston could maybe outpitch them, but I think uh, the Yankees lineup, especially if they solve shortstop, they're this could definitely be the year they do it.
Great.
So,
Any other questions or comments from Cody? Okay, let's move to the NL East, another major division with quite a few good teams here too.
NL East is, I think, maybe the one division where I really do see some potential for changing of the guard. I Atlanta had an okay off season. Their biggest thing, they got probably the best catcher not named JT Realmuto. Sean Murphy. So I think I'm really curious to see what the loss of Dansby Swanson does there. He was a good clubhouse guy, as well as an all-star Gold Glove shortstop. Da-dum. But the Mets and the Phillies, to me, just I think they both jump Atlanta this year. The Phillies are going to be a handful. Phillies had a bad a hit of bad luck a couple days ago. I don't
Hoskins.
Tore his ACL. Expected that he's out for the year. I know he's going for a second opinion, but that's a big change that they're going to have to adapt to. That's 30 home runs out of the lineup. If they can hang in there until Bryce Harper gets back, around June or July, that will help. The guy stepping in at first doesn't have a lot of experience, a guy named Derek Hall. But numbers I saw, he's been playing pretty well, at least in spring training. So, hopefully, for them, they don't skip a beat. But their lineup is just ridiculous.
And they just got Trey Turner from the Braves too.
And putting Trey Turner on base in front of Kyle Schwarber and Bryce when he gets back, and Nick Castellanos and some of the other hitters. Alec Boehm had a bounce back year last year. Philly and the Mets and flip a coin between those two. I think bringing in the Mets, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer are back together again, not since the Tigers. And then it's going to be very interesting. They also spacing on his first name, the pitcher from Japan, Senga, is going to be interesting to see how he does. He's been very successful. Kodai Senda, but it's going to be interesting to see his transition from the Japanese professional leagues to here. But if he does what they think he can do, their pitching is going to be really strong. So for me, if I had to pick right now, I would say, if Philly can survive until Bryce gets back, I think Philly can do it.
Okay. So I was thinking along similar lines. I also picked the Braves to fall out of first, but I have the Mets picking that up, and I actually have Philly falling to third because I really don't, the Rhys Hoskins thing and Bryce Harper being out of lineup for a couple of months. That division's so strong that they could fall out of it pretty quickly if they don't pick it up together. But they do have all those pieces. I just think the Mets spent, I think, $500 million this offseason to bring all those guys there. They're not messing around, and I think that can get them to that top spot.
No, and it would not shock me at all. I think the one thing, and maybe, having, Buck Showalter there for another year will help with this. Steve Cohen has poured a lot of money into that team, but I don't know about the chemistry, putting all those, all those high contracts together. But they did manage. Some of their biggest offseason moves, actually, I think, were some of the people that they kept, rather than brought in. So if they can keep a good core, and if they can build some cohesiveness, get some, build the team chemistry, it would not shock me at all.
Yeah,
not in the slightest.
And then we won't talk about them because they don't matter in the scheme of things. But there's Miami in that division, and there's your Nationals, your hometown Nationals.
So that was my follow up, if you don't mind, is I want to know a really quick, unbiased take for you on the Nationals. What are you expecting this year, and why?
Rebuild. They're in a horrible position right now. They are trying to sell the team. There are no obvious buyers right now. It limits what they can do in the free agent market. If anybody is having a reasonably good season at the All-Star break, they're going to be, trade bait for, prospects and things like that. It's just a tough spot for them to be in. The struggle with them too has been that even during their best years, they committed themselves to a couple of contracts to Steven Strasburg and Patrick Corbin that they, in hindsight, those were just brutal contracts. And Steven Strasburg still is not. It hasn't been spring training this year. So, and Patrick Corbin has been, he's been getting pummeled on almost a regular basis. So, so the contracts that they've committed to have not gone well. The homegrown players that they have not kept in-house, you think, Bryce Harper was homegrown, Juan Soto was homegrown. Trey Turner came in a trade, but they definitely cultivated him. They've let so many good pieces go, and the frustrating thing, we're not going to pay Bryce because we want to be able to, sign Rendon. Oh, well, we're not going to pay Rendon because we want to sign Strasburg. Oh, we're not going to pay this one because we want to pay, another one down the road, but they never pay off on it. They don't keep the prospects in-house. So, it's hard to watch. I'll still root, but we're going to be mathematically eliminated somewhere around May, I think.
Dustin, any NL East thoughts?
No follow-ups.
Let's move on to the NL Central, where we got the perennially good Cardinals, who have seemed to, no matter what happens, they're always good.
Yeah, I still think they're good enough to win the division. Goldschmidt and Arenado in the middle of the lineup. Gotta love them. Another name from the World Baseball Classic, Lars Nootbaar, who actually played for Japan, believe it or not. But he played really well there. They have to replace Yadier Molina. at catcher. They got Wilson Contreras from the Cubs, who is probably a better hitter than Molina. Whether he can do the same things defensively and with the pitching staff, that's going to be kind of up in the air. Pitching staff is a little fragile. Adam Wainwright is injured right now. He's, a year older, and he's already announced his retirement at the end of the year. Jack Flaherty can't seem to stay on the field. So they're, there are some holes there. They are in, I think, a weak division, so that helps. I think Milwaukee is going to take a step back. I think the Chicago Cubs are an interesting team to watch. I think adding Swanson, both for on the field and in the clubhouse, is going to be good for them. They added another bat in Trey Mancini, and now the designated hitter is universal. You have a spot to put his bat in the lineup, and he's come back really well from his cancer scare. They added a little bit of pitching, so I see the Cubs pushing St. Louis for the division. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, nah.
Okay. This is where I think for the most part I've been in lockstep with you until this division.
Okay.
I really like Milwaukee. I think that they have a lot of new faces in their lineup that are going to play some major roles, and they focus on pitching so much that they seem to have the best rotation, maybe next to the Mets now. But I like Milwaukee to actually win that division, and maybe that's here's my naivete about some baseball stepping in, but that's what I like. And then I also said I thought St. Louis, like you said, they have some holes and they could take a step back, and I did like Milwaukee to fill that. And then I was wondering if the Pirates could be the NL's version of the Twins, one of those teams that surprised some people by hanging around through September. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but hanging around in September is a possible dark horse candidate. And then the last thought I had is Cincinnati and Pittsburgh finished with the same record last year, but Cincinnati is going nowhere, and I like what Pittsburgh did. So.
Yeah, they're bringing Andrew McCutchen back this year, but is he the Andrew McCutchen he was when he played for them before? No, but I think that'll be a feel-good story. They got Ji-Man Choi, and so he should be seeing some time at first base. He's a pretty good bat, good player. O'Neal Cruz is a freak. Not many 6'7" shortstops who can throw the ball at what was he hitting last year? Something close to 100 miles an hour on his throws over to first. I think Pittsburgh takes a step forward. I don't know that they're ready to compete for the division yet. Milwaukee, yes, they Corbin Burns and Woodruff, that's a good 1-2 punch. But I think Christian Yelich to me has never come all the way back, and I don't know that he's somebody that you can count on for that for the kind of production that he used to give them. Colton Wong, him leaving hurts them defensively. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit of a drop back. The pitching is great, but if you don't have the defense and the run production to support it, and not having, Josh Hader at the back of the bullpen, who's the closer going to be, Devin Williams, maybe he steps into that role, see what he does. But I was just feeling, a little bit of Chicago. So I would say maybe, St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee. I don't think Milwaukee falls any farther than third.
Yeah.
But that, that's just a gut, gut reaction.
Cool. Dustin, Cody, NL Central stuff?
So my follow-up with NL Central would be with the Cardinals. Albert Pujols, right, came back to the Cardinals last year. I watched him, on TV break 700, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on that 700 number for him and what that means for baseball and his legacy and all that.
I have to say I really wanted him to do it. Given the way his career had gone for him in, with the Angels and with the Dodgers, I wasn't sure even though he was sitting like, 5 or 6 home runs away, I wasn't sure that it was going to happen for him. And then he ends up, coming in and hitting 21 and 70 something RBIs. And, for him to come back, in his final season to the place where it all started and kind of rally his career and go out on the note that he went out on, that was so cool. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, your 700 home run club, 4 names, and, I don't know. For me, one of the names has an asterisk next to it. I'm old school. I'm sorry. To me, 755 is still the number, but you've got 4 people there, and Albert's one of them. I mean, I'm very happy for him though that everything ended the way he did. I love the fact that that he was able to perform, and that the crowd was able to to give it back to him too.
Cool. Cody, anything from NL Central?
I have no follow-ups.
Okay. The last division, the NL West. I'll let you talk first, Bob, but I'm excited about one particular team, and it's not the shirt I'm wearing.
No, I'll bet I can guess which one. LA won 111 games last year. They are not 111 good this year. They will come back to the pack. They will still be good. But they lost both Turners. We didn't talk about Cody Bellinger with Chicago, but that's a former MVP off the roster. Lost a couple pitchers. They do have a couple who are getting healthy. If Dustin May comes back and can stay healthy, he can really help them. So LA will still be in contention, but San Diego is a beat. I don't know how they're doing it. They've got I was looking at this earlier. They've got their lineup once Tatis comes back, and that's a whole other conversation. But they've got Machado making something around $32 million a year. Tatis and Xander Bogaerts are going to be making about 24, 25 each. Juan Soto got 23 million in arbitration. So you've got in excess of 100 million on 4 players for 1 year. I don't know if that's sustainable, but it's sure going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah.
But I have, even without Tatis, I think San Diego is going to be, a handful for anybody in the league. It would not shock me at all to see them jump LA and win the division. I think, I think the pitching, Yu Darvish is strong. Blake Snell, I think, had a good year last year. Putting Josh Hader into that bullpen.
They just signed Michael Wacha.
Yeah. So, I think, like I said, I don't know how they're managing all these contracts. And I don't know what happens when, I guess they have Soto under team control this year, and I think next year, 2025 is when he'll be a free agent. See what happens there. Really interested to see what happens when Tatis comes back, though, because that is going to affect kind of the team chemistry, and he's, with the things that have happened with him off the field. I don't know if I don't know how ready the fans are to welcome him back yet. I think there's going to be a period of, okay, prove it to us. Have you learned anything? Are you going to take care of yourself? Are you going to, play ball the way we think you can and not get involved in any of these off-field, things? It's going to be interesting to see how that affects the chemistry. But if he comes back, plays the way he can, and integrates himself successfully into the team and into the locker room, that's a whole different gear for San Diego.
Yeah. You guessed it. The one that I was excited about. They signed Xander Bogaerts, they signed Matt Carpenter, they got Nelson Cruz, Michael Wacha, and like I said, I don't watch a whole lot of baseball, but my favorite player that I've watched the last couple of years is Manny Machado. He is so much fun to watch, and I like you. I think San Diego is going to leapfrog LA and win that division this year, and then there's the other three teams we haven't talked about. We don't need to talk about Colorado. They're going to be 100-loss team this year. But San Francisco looks like a playoff team if it weren't for the Dodgers and the Padres ahead of them. And then lastly, I think the Diamondbacks could hit 500 this year. I think they were only 7 games behind it, and I think they're improving as well. So.
Yeah, I can see them taking a step forward. They just signed a kid, Corbin Carroll, who I think is going to be really good. They also have to get out from under a couple of unfortunate contracts. I think, Madison Bumgarner is, eating up a lot of flexibility for them. San Francisco, I think they had kind of a disappointing offseason. They really needed to and really tried to land somebody like Judge or Correa. And the best they could do was to get, like Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto, who didn't even play last year. So I see San Francisco kind of treading water a little bit. I don't think they'll be in the mix for the division. I think everybody's going to be watching, San Diego. And one of the really fun things with San Diego is going to be, when Tatis does come back, where does he play? Because you're not going to move Machado off a third. You've got Xander Bogaerts now, who is, a perennial 300 hitter playing shortstop. Are you going to move Bogaerts, around the infield? Or, I don't think so. I think it's going to. I think if Tatis comes back, he probably plays in the outfield, and his success and his ability to win over the San Diego fans or win them back is probably going to depend on how well he adapts to whatever position they ask him to play. And how willing is he to do it? How much of a team player does he make himself? Because all of the talent is there, but he's going to have to. He's going to have to bring himself in line with them.
Yeah. We talked about the ALCS. Both you and I had Astros Yankees there. Dustin and Cody, did you have a prediction for ALCS?
If I and this is me speaking unintelligibly, so if I had to guess, it's probably going to be, I think Yankees and probably Astros, maybe Yankees Astros.
I'm always hopeful for the Red Sox. I'm always hopeful to see the Red Sox there. So that's just because I lived in Boston for a while. I'm hoping for the Red Sox, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Houston will be back there again, and then I'm just going to say Red Sox out of hope.
Okay, and I picked the Yankees to go to the World Series. Bob, who is your pick for that AL representative?
As much as I would love to, stir up some controversy and turmoil, I think this is the year the Yankees get past Houston. Especially if they, I think, health obviously, as the season wears on, is going to be a big thing. Aaron Judge has been great the last few years. I hope he stays healthy. He did have some health issues, earlier in his career, but I hope he stays on the field. But all things being equal, I think this is the Yankees' year to get through.
Yeah. Cody, Dustin, who's your AL American League representative of the World Series?
Yankees.
Red Sox.
Okay.
No, probably Houston. I think Houston again.
Okay. Moving to the National League, I didn't have Philadelphia in there. I didn't have Atlanta in there. I have an NLCS between New York and San Diego. And I'm going with San Diego as my NL representative in the World Series.
It's so hard to call it between the Mets and Philly. I agree with you about San Diego. You know what? I said Philly before. I'm going to stick with Philly. But especially, if they're still in the mix and Bryce comes back and gives them a boost, I think that's awesome for them. I think San Diego probably has enough to get past either one, though, in the playoffs. So as much fun as it would be to have a Yankees-Mets World Series, I think it's probably going to be East Coast versus West Coast. I'm going to say Yankees, San Diego.
Yep, that's what I had to. Dustin, Cody, National League representative or NLCS matchup?
So the matchup NLCS for me, I'm saying Padres as well, but don't laugh at me if this is stupid. It might be, but I'm gonna say Cardinals. Padres and Cardinals, I think in there, but I also think that the Padres are gonna pass them up and head to the World Series.
Yeah, I think San Diego has the strongest lineup, but there's a lot of things that could happen through the course of the season, whether it's injuries or ego. So I think that they're a favorite. From my perspective, they're the favorite, but it's a long season.
Yeah. So World Series, I think well, at least Bob and I have Yankees versus Padres, and I'm sticking with my San Diego excitement all the way through and pulling off a a 6 or 7 game win over the Yankees.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably have to agree. I mean, the Yankees have, Aaron Judge, but San Diego has, 3 or 4 guys who could be that stature also, um, it, again, the key thing with San Diego is going to be what happens with Tatis. But if all of that works out, San Diego in 6.
Cody,
Well,
who wins?
I have the Yankees and Padres matchup as well.
Oh yeah, you do.
And I'm a Padres as well. So I think that's three for 3 of us, right?
Yeah, Dustin, who between the Red Sox and the who do you got? Rockies.
No, just again, as that
You had
little bit of
Astros,
the Red
that's right.
Sox there, I can't pick the Yankees, right? And so that's why I picked Houston, right?
Sure,
And so
yeah.
Houston and San Diego, right? Because I can't pick the Yankees as that Red Sox,
Yeah.
are there, but yeah. So and I can't pick Houston to repeat. That I don't want that. So San Diego.
Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds great. In the last under 3 minutes, if we can change course pretty quick, I just wanted to talk about something that happened last night, and Dustin and Cody and I were texting about it. But this NCAA tournament is as crazy as I've ever seen it. We had Texas almost lost, which would have meant that no single 1 or 2 seed would have been in the Elite Eight. But we only have 1, 2 seed in the Elite Eight, and the first time ever that no single 1 seed has ever been in that final 8. Dustin, Cody, Bob, we talk about how crazy and mad the NCAA tournament is. Anything can happen, but until last night, that had never happened. And so, any comments, Dustin, Cody, about the craziness of this tournament, or Bob?
I'm just loving it. I'm just loving it. It's really fun to watch, and it's I love chaos, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, I love chaos as well. I love it. I think some analysis you could put on this is a lot of these 1-2 seeds are young, going to be one and done players, right? Freshman, sophomore, they're one and done, versus a lot of these other teams that are in the mix are players that have either transferred around. You have a lot of juniors, seniors, players on that, a lot more experienced. And I think that it's shown through this year. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pretend to be any kind of a expert on this, but I think that even from that first, from the very first few hours of the tournament, when you saw a 13 and a 15 moving on, that was like the wake up call, like buckle up because stuff is going to happen. And I have not had a chance to absorb, what happened yesterday. So, I totally get Cody's comment, about the chaos. I mean, this is what's going to make people talk about this tournament. I also, I think I really agree with Dustin too, that this one and done thing has, I don't know, again, I'm old school. I miss the days when, you could count on certain programs kind of, going after each other year in and year out. And, the one and done approach kind of takes that away in a lot of ways.